The St. Louis Cardinals officially welcome Dustin May to the team. Today, you're going to hear from him on everything from why he chose the Cardinals to his arm health and regaining weight going into 2026.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, a former national radio sports anchor born and raised in St. Louis and a lifetime Cardinals fan. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you to our everydayers for always being here. Welcome in to you if you are new. Hope you enjoy the content. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving you all the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, you visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Today's show, we've got the latest news and notes from around Major League Baseball, some of them affecting what's going on with the Cardinals right now, why the Yankees drafted now former Cardinal pitcher Cade Winquist in the Rule 5 draft, what's next for the Cardinals now that the Dustin May signing is done. But we are going to start with Big Red himself, as he's known. The introductory press conference for Dustin May was today, and it wasn't a formal one at Busch Stadium or anything, but it was done over the internet, Zoom call style, with Dustin joining the group of media. Chaim Bloom was, on the call as well. But Dustin was in his home. I believe it was Fort Worth, Texas, is where he's at. And the St. Louis media got a chance to ask a number of different questions, not only to May, but there's a few of them directed towards President of Baseball Operations Chaim Bloom, about anything and everything that's going on with the team right now. But most of the questions circled around Dustin May's health. Duh. It is the biggest obstacle for May and the biggest, red alert about what's going on with Dustin May. If this contract is going to be successful for both parties, if this is going to work out for both of them, which they reiterated is what they want near the end of the press conference. They brought that up. The hope for both the Cardinals and May is that he's going to stay healthy. That's the big red sign, the big red X or whatever that people are most concerned about. It's not that he's a crappy pitcher or anything like that. Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be okay? Is he going to be on the mound for him to make this worthwhile for everyone involved? Will he stay healthy? Will he pitch well? And will it benefit both sides with the Cardinals winning more games and May resurrecting his once very promising career that has had to endure and overcome injury after injury after injury since coming up to the big leagues in 2019. 2 injuries that he dealt with last year on top of recovering from the surgery he had in 2024. Just a string of bad luck and bad things continued to happen to him last year. The first was that life-threatening freak accident that led to the esophagus tear. And then you had the neuritis that he experienced at the end of the season. So let's hear from Dustin May. A question was asked about what it said about his toughness, having to go through all of those things and come out on the other side and land in St. Louis.
Yeah. For me, I think it was just to not look too far down the tunnel, to just kind of live in like a little 3-foot world is what I like to say. Is not try to step too far out because you don't know how far you're going to be able to go. Not look too far behind because that's kind of in the past. So just kind of living in the present, living in, like I said, my 3-foot world and just trying to control what I control in the present.
When asked about his preparation in getting ready for this upcoming spring after all he went through, this is how he responded to that particular question.
For me, the biggest thing was just trying to get my weight back on and build my strength back to what I was before my esophagus tear. I was very lucky and fortunate to be able to even get into a situation to be able to pitch last year because whenever I did rupture my esophagus and came out of the hospital, I really didn't know if I was ever going to be able to throw a baseball again. So I was definitely very lucky and blessed to be able to do that, whether it was at my full potential or just what I went through last year, which was not what I thought that the type of pitcher that I am. So just to be able to put on a uniform last year and do it, it was great. But now that I'm back to hopefully who I was before with weight and strength wise, I'm hoping that there are bigger and better things to come.
Which, you hear that. And, I brought this up. I don't know, was it yesterday or the day before? I forget. They all kind of run together after a while. But how he's kind of been humbled a little bit by that scare and how he's learned to appreciate things a little bit more. When you come up and you're super talented and everybody's praising your name and telling you how good you are and how good you're going to be and you're the next big thing. And then, you just kind of, life seems to be pretty easy. And yeah, he's had to deal with the surgeries and stuff like that, which, are obviously an issue and are a complete bummer to a young man. But you're talking about life-threatening stuff now, not just, hey, I got to wait a few months to throw baseball again. No, you're talking about I might have lost my life. And it's kind of nice to hear him at the age of 28 speak as mature as he does about what that's done to him. So kudos to him. They also asked him about his weight, and he laughed a little bit, saying, because remember, it was like reported that he was 180. He was listed as 180. If you go to like Baseball Reference or any of the media guides, 180 is what he's listed at his last year. And he's kind of laughed and was like, yeah, I haven't been 180 since maybe 18 years old. Said he played at about 198 to 202 last year. Said he's already up to 220. Is hoping to reach 225 by spring training. So appears to be moving right along with getting his strength and, his just, I don't want to say girth. That's not a really good word. It makes it sound like he's a big fat guy or something like that. But no, just to get his weight back and get his body back to where it needs to be by the time spring training comes around. Then, of course, you had the neuritis, the nerve issue that he dealt with at the end of last season, ended his season prematurely after getting traded to the Red Sox. And he was asked about that and how disappointing it was to miss the postseason. And here's how he responded to that particular question.
Yeah, it definitely was. No, it's nothing that I have experienced in the past. My nerves always been fine in the past. It was just something that they said it probably just happened because of use. It was kind of probably just like a body shock, and my body was probably just kind of or my elbow was probably just trying to getting to a point to where it was like, all right, this is good for now. And then it took about a week off from throwing and calmed down, went away, and ramped back up trying to get ready for the postseason. And then, like I said, if we would have advanced to the DS, I would have been ready.
And obviously that's good news that this isn't something that lingered. They got past it pretty quickly. And if the Sox had gotten past the Yankees, he was going to be available to pitch. And unfortunately for him and Boston, the Yankees knocked him out. So he was also asked about how he's feeling now. And this is how he replied going into spring training.
Arm feels great. Back to normal. As I've reiterated to a lot of people, I was going to be ready for the DS if we had advanced. So arm was in a better spot towards that time. But yeah, I'm definitely in a better spot now. I took some time off after that and definitely got the body right, and I'm in a good physical space right now. So definitely looking forward to this year in spring training.
He was also asked about being the veteran of what is a young group of pitchers. Normally he's been the younger guy that's in the rotation in his time with LA and then with Boston as well. So his thoughts on that.
Yeah, I definitely think it'll be something new for me. Being from the Dodgers, I got a lot of experience from a lot of veteran guys. Going over to Boston, it was kind of a little bit of a modge podge, and I was kind of right in there in the middle. But I definitely will enjoy going to this kind of young pitching staff and kind of using my experiences that I've had in the past to help guys kind of walk through some things if they see fit to come to me and ask, or I can go and try and help lead them away, or lead them the right way through things and try and guide them the way that I was guided when I was younger. So definitely will be excited to use those experiences for that.
So you got some good answers. You've got some honest answers about some pretty important things. And I'm sure that a lot of fans had questions about it, like, well, is he any good right now? Like, how's his arm and stuff? And, he's not going to come on there and go, yeah, it sucks. Doesn't feel real good right now. It sounds to me like he's excited about this opportunity. Another change of scenery. Sounds like he's healthy. ready to rock when spring training rolls around. I like the fact that it's a new experience for him too. You know, he was only with the Red Sox for a couple months there, and it was certainly a hectic time because you get traded at the trade deadline. You got to switch coasts. You got to go from the West Coast to the East Coast, which is, you know, a crazy difference. And then you get this neuritis thing that pops up out of nowhere that he's never dealt with. And at least now he can take a breath, right? Mentally prepare for living in the Midwest, in St. Louis, come in with a clean bill of health for once, have a chip on his shoulder a little bit, something to prove after the down year last year and all the injuries he had to go through, and has a chance to be the main cog of a young team that is trying to prove people wrong about them. You know, he's right in a right group of people who, you know, the Cardinals are looking to try and prove that just because they are inexperienced and because they are young, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to suck. You know, people see that like, well, you don't really have any stars on your team right now. You're trying to trade away some of the bigger names that you got. Probably not going to be very good. Yes, inexperienced, but also a lot of unknown about what certain guys are going to be and how good they're going to be. Are certain players going to take a step and progress? I mean, why is it that everybody's going to be exactly the same as they were last year or regress? Why can't some of these guys get better? So a lot of unknown to what the Cardinals are going to do, and it's unknown on whether or not Dustin May is going to be healthy to lead them in this rotation this year. But it was a good press conference. There were also some questions directed towards Chaim Bloom as well pertaining to Dustin May, why they targeted him in free agency and such. So I'm going to play those for you coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's why live betting with FanDuel is as exciting as it is. If you haven't done it yet, you are missing out because you're not just watching the game, guys. You're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting gets more fun and exciting when the game starts to shift. You get a receiver who gets hot. You get a defense that tightens up. The momentum flips after a turnover, and FanDuel will let you jump right into that moment. Live spreads and money lines, they adjust instantly. Player props, those update as the guys heat up. Thursday Night Football tonight, you've got a huge NFC West matchup between the Rams and Seahawks. Rams got that great offense, but Devontae Adams is hurt his hammy last week. Puka Nacua has had a very strange week off of the field. How's he going to perform mentally? They had flight delays to get to Seattle. Playing conditions are going to be a mess tonight. Now they don't sound like they're going to be all that good for throwing the ball, which is what the Rams do best. It's going to be interesting to see how that affects things for Matthew Stafford and company. And Seattle is just a really solid team all around, and they've got some great pieces as well. Jackson Smith and Jigba. They've got a decent running game. Like it should be. I'm not expecting a lot of high scoring, but it should be an entertaining game for sure. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action for tonight and the rest of the season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You live your team every day. Now take it up a level. Go ad-free. Join our Everydayer Club today, and you can get Locked On Cardinals and all your favorite podcasts with no interruptions. Member-only Discord access and more. It's just $5 a month. $50 a year if you want to go all in that way, but $5 a month. Go to LockedOnSTLCardinals.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. So it wasn't just Dustin May that was fielding questions today. Chaim Bloom had a couple of them tossed his way as well from today's press conference with Dustin May being introduced. By the way, he's going to wear number 3. Number 85 was the number he had been wearing. Didn't think any other team would ever have that problem. The problem with the Cardinals is that is already retired. So 85, 8 minus 5 equals 3. Dustin May is going to wear number 3. So do with that knowledge what you will. But Chaim Bloom had this to say when talking about why the Cardinals like May as a fit with them in this particular season.
We're really excited at what he brings to the table and the upside of this partnership. His youth and talent, and also the experience, the things that he's been through, and the chance to have a runway with us a little over a year removed from some pretty wild stuff on the injury and medical front. And as he continues his career, we're really excited for him to be able to do that here, and look forward to partnering with him to get the most out of him and position him for success so he can help us win.
Had to use the word runway in there, didn't they? I thought we were going to retire that particular word. Heim was also asked how he viewed his rotation depth with the addition of May and whether or not there's still an addition he can make, or are they comfortable with the way things are heading into spring training?
Yeah, obviously, we're happy to be deeper now with Dustin on board, but we're still going to be on the lookout for more. When that happens, who it is, whether it's via free agency, trade, I don't know. But, we still want to make sure we're insulated for the season, and that, especially as we continue to hunt opportunities to add young talent to this core, that's not going to stop. We're going to keep doing that. And hopefully there are opportunities that line up for us as we go through the offseason.
So, maybe they're done. Maybe they're not. They're always going to be looking, always hunting, always, sneaking around, seeing what else they can do to improve the team, which is what they're supposed to do each and every year. But what are these opportunities that he speaks of? Well, John Denton, who covers the Cardinals for MLB.com, wrote a piece today mentioning that the reason why this presser was pushed out a little bit, 4 days to be exact, is because the club hoped to potentially execute any of the other half dozen trades that they have discussed with interested teams about Brendan Donovan, Jojo Romero, Nolan Arenado, and Wilson Contreras. Other players such as Nolan Gorman, Lars Nootbaar, or Pedro Pages could also be on the move, with the Cards embarking on a rebuild. Now, none of that really comes at us all that shocking. These are names that we've been talking about for a while now. The Athletic's Ken Rosenthal also chimed in on the Cardinals in his latest piece, saying the most active seller in the trade market, the St. Louis Cardinals, continue to discuss a wide range of players, including infielder, outfielder Brendan Donovan, outfielders Lars Nootbaar, first baseman Wilson Contreras, third baseman Nolan Arenado, and lefty reliever Jojo Romero. As reported previously by The Athletic, the Seattle Mariners are a favorite for Donovan, and the Los Angeles Dodgers are among the teams interested in Lars Nootbaar. Arenado, meanwhile, is a possibility for the Los Angeles Angels, who are negotiating a buyout agreement with third baseman Anthony Rendon. No trade is imminent, however. The market for Arenado will become better defined after Bregman and Eugenio Suarez signed their free agent deals. Arenado, who turns 35 in April, is under contract for 2 more years. His former team, the Rockies, are paying $5 million of his $27 million salary in 26, which includes $6 million deferred. He also is owed $15 million in 2027. What's a little wild to me is when you hear about all these names and stuff, is that a team with so many players that it looks like other teams covet around the league, for whatever reason, they couldn't win together as a group. And that's a shame, really. And I'm not trying to open the door to like blaming Ollie or any of the coaching staff or whatever. It's kind of a bummer, right? That, you've got good pieces here that people want. There's stuff about these guys that people want to get their hands on for their teams. But as a group, they just couldn't do it. They just didn't mesh. Maybe it's not so much the offensive players maybe it's because we didn't have enough pitching all the time. We can point at that too. But it's just kind of a bummer, right? And, as Cardinal fans, we're not used to this. We're not used to this where we're tearing a team down. And, what I'm excited about is that, at least there seems to be like a floor of prospects that are very close to doing some really good things for this organization. 26 doesn't feel like that's going to be the year, but 27 doesn't feel like it should be that bad. 28 could be incredible, right? But being patient and waiting for stuff like that's not really, as a human, something we're all that good at anymore. Most of that stuff that we heard about Arenado, I've said on here before, it's just common sense, really, that Arenado's market, the talks about him are going to wait until the bigger pieces find homes first. We had to wait on Alex Bregman last year, and here we are doing it again. It's because Arenado's not as good as him. I've also seen a lot of discussion between fans about, the worth of guys like Nootbaar and Pages and Gorman. It's kind of cool that, apparently there's been some interest in them. Nootbaar to the Dodgers. Sure. They've got some prospects that they've always had a good farm system, so maybe you can peel something away from them. We'll see. I don't know what Pages and Gorman's worth is out there. I really don't. Pages obviously a pretty good guy behind the plate, not much of a hitter, but if a team is, looking for somebody who's just more defensive minded, then sure. Cardinals have a surplus of catchers in their system right now, so that makes sense. Nolan Gorman, the struggles he's had. People are still probably looking at it like, but look at that power. But I don't know what his worth is. It can't be that high, can it? I've seen discussions about Donovan. Namely, it's Mariners and Giants fans that are out there going back and forth about it. Some Guardians chatter popped up today as well, so we'll see what becomes of that. I feel like, when you talk about who's Donovan worth more to, I feel like he's worth more to the Mariners. Like that, and I feel like that's why things are leaning towards something getting done with Seattle. They're in a championship window right now. They were so close to getting there last year, and I was rooting for them. Like Seattle was a team that I wanted to see them. But no offense to the Toronto Blue Jays, but I don't know. I just kind of was drawn to the Mariners. I thought they were a fun team to watch. Not that the Blue Jays weren't, but that's just where I was. And they're in a championship window right now. So close to getting there, and to find a piece that might get them that much closer after losing Polanco, who was a big piece of that run they went on. It might be so enticing that maybe they are willing to part with better prospects to get him. Maybe they will overpay to go get him. Giants seem to want him, but he's not exactly a need in my eyes, because they're not, Donovan's not going to push them over the finish line to get them to the World Series, is he? So I wouldn't expect them to offer quite as much as Seattle might. Guardians, who knows? They surprised a lot of us this year just being where they were. Every year it seems like they're not supposed to be that great, and there they are. And Donnie sure feels like a Guardians type of player, doesn't he? I feel like he would fit seamlessly in that Cleveland locker room. So that one makes sense to me. MLB news and notes next, including why did the Yankees steal our buddy Cade Winquist in the Rule 5 draft? You jerks. I'm kidding, sort of. We'll talk about it next on Locked On Cardinals. Did Locked On Cardinals make your Spotify Wrapped? Well, prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we're going to drop you a code, and you can be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel, which is a lot of fun to jump into if you haven't done that already. So the Yankees took our guy. They hadn't made a Rule 5 pick since 2011, and this year they decided, you know what? We're going to break the streak. We're going to take Cade Winquist from the Cardinals, who we've had on this show, who was a great young man, seemed super awesome, and I'm so bummed that he's not going to be with us anymore. I don't recall ever seeing anyone bring him up either when we were talking about Rule 5 draft picks and who might get taken from the Cardinals. I don't remember his name ever being brought up as being in danger of being selected. It was always Pete Hansen, right? And now Winquist is a Yankee. So why did they take him? What was it about him that they liked so much? Brian Hotch at MLB.com wrote a piece saying, according to assistant GM Michael Fishman, the Yankees had kept a close eye on Winquist since his days at the University of Texas at Arlington, where he put down the bat and became a full-time pitcher. Fishman said that Winquist was next on the club's board after taking Cam Schlittler in the 7th round of the 2022 MLB draft. Didn't get a chance to take him because the Cardinals grabbed him in the 8th round, 3 picks ahead of New York. Fishman said he's got big velocity. He has characteristics that our pitching group is good at working with. We'll get him with our pitching department, make a few tweaks. He's somebody who hopefully could help us. He's so good that the Yankees took him, and Cardinals were unable to protect him because they didn't have enough spots. As a Rule 5 pick, remember, he's got to stay on the Yankees 26-man roster all season or be offered back to the Cardinals for half of his $100,000 selection price, which, if he gets offered back, I would assume the Cardinals would take him for 50 grand, especially with the upside he has shown over the last couple seasons. All right, finally, some news and notes about the second base market outside of Donovan, but kind of affects Donovan. Nico Horner trade talks apparently are real, but listed as unlikely. But the Giants are a team that have checked in on him, according to the San Francisco Chronicle's Susan Slusser. They are also apparently interested in Brandon Lau of the Rays. Again, I hope the Cardinals aren't running out of suitors for Donnie if they still plan to move him. It's part of the game, though, right? Like, there's a certain point where you got to eventually pull the trigger on a deal, or you risk scaring guys away and then nothing happens and everybody just goes back to where they were, and the Giants and the Mariners and these guys go find other options. So you don't want to push them to that level and scare them off, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you aren't settling. Like, you aren't just like, okay, I guess. Like, don't just make the deal to make the deal. Go get the guys you want. And if they don't offer those, then say no. we're not going to do that right now. And continue to hold the leverage and the power in this situation. So don't just settle. And it doesn't seem like Chaim Bloom is doing that, at least not yet. So I feel like that's good news that he's being tough about what he's going to get in return for Brendan Donovan. So any better, because if they don't get what everybody's been chatting about and what's expected, a lot of people have been talking about, I should say a lot of people, but some of the talk has been about, some of the top 10 guys, like, a couple of them in the Mariners stockpile of prospects. We've brought up the number 3, the Elias Montes, the big slugger left-hander, but what about the guys above him? Like, even those names have been brought up. And finally, the Ketel Marte talks continue, but Ken Rosenthal said that perhaps the Diamondbacks don't even trade him. They don't get what they want, and so they don't trade him and instead go and get Alex Bregman instead. What? Can you imagine that? Bregman, Marte, Corbin Carroll, Geraldo Perdomo. I mean, that's a nasty group of hitters right there. You would still need pitching in my eyes. I don't feel like Arizona's got enough of that. But then you could add somebody like, a Paul Goldschmidt to go play at first base. A little veteran presence wouldn't be that expensive. But that would obviously take Arenado out of the possibility of going to Arizona as well, and perhaps playing with Goldie again if he ends up going back to Arizona. So I don't know. It's just a lot of things circling right now, and we'll see if it gets done before Christmas. I don't know. Again, I'm prepared to see this thing dragged out a little bit longer, but we'll see what happens. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram at Locked On Cardinals. Like, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. You can help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. For those of you on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is Sully and the crew at Locked On MLB. They're always talking about everything that's going on, not only with the Cardinals, but around Major League Baseball. So give them a whirl. You're the best fans of baseball for a reason. We'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.